Hey, good morning once again, and welcome to Jack's Tech Corner. This is Photoshop Elements Weekly, and this is episode number 14. In this show, we're going to talk about masking away issues. We're also going to be talking about changing color with layers, and how does that work, and what would that look like? And then, a lot of you have been emailing me, and we've been talking through the week here, or this past week, about how to shoot fireworks, and we're going to talk about that. I have a little video clip we're going to watch here, so not to bore you too long. It's about 6 minutes, so hopefully you'll hang in there with me. And then we'll talk about how to take pictures of fireworks and what's going to come out with that and how we're going to get that done. So let's go ahead and get started with this week's Photoshop Elements Weekly. Okay, guys, I hope everybody had a great week last week when I was out of the studio. And I know a lot of you joined me for the remote cast, and that was nice that everybody joined in there and kind of dealt with the issues of using a laptop to do a live webcast like this, switching screens or whatnot. It's always nice to be back in the studio here with the two monitors up so we can very, very easily switch between screens, and I can see what's going on. I can look at my outputs as well as chat to you guys in the live chat rooms. And also make sure that you're aware that Skype is open and available to you. You can Skype me at Jack's Tech Corner or the phone number on the screen, 724-701-0911. Now we're going to talk about hiding some issues. That's how we're going to get started here this morning. And the reason this came about actually is because of a issue I had actually when I went out and was taking some pictures when we were recently away, and we went to clean up a picture that I took. So let's go ahead and get started with that. I'll bring the picture up here, and let me just switch over here on the cameras. And this is the picture I'm talking about. It's a very, very interesting shot, and actually when I was taking this shot, my daughter said, Dad, what are you doing? Why are you taking a picture like that? Because you always got to look at different perspectives when taking pictures. Don't always just look at what's in front of you. Try to get behind it, look past it, look over it, and that's exactly what I did with this Canon shot. I took this Canon, I thought, wow, that'd be a great shot to have hanging on the wall, because you're right there with the Canon up close and focused, but at the same time we have the landscape behind it and open wide up so you can see what that Canon was actually shooting at. So it makes it very, very interesting. It makes it a really I thought anyway, it makes it a nice shot. But what makes it a bad shot is and I couldn't get around it when I was taking this thing, is the cars down here, the vans. There's a car over here, and that made it not that good of a shot, right? There's something wrong with that. You're taking a Civil War moment, is where this was. This was at a Civil War battlefield. You're taking that Civil War moment and you're putting it into the modern day age. Well, I wanted it to look like it did during the Civil War. So I wanted to kind of clean it up a little bit, and that's how we're going to start here, using masks to basically hide away, or I call it masking away issues. And I'm going to show you there's a couple ways we can do this. There's a right way, and there's a very much wrong way when you start playing with some of these tools. So we are going to look at these tools this morning. I'm going to show you how this works. So let's go ahead and get started with this picture. The first thing we want to do, and I know you guys probably have a ton of ideas for this picture already. You're like, Jack, you're holding your hand up saying, Jack, I can do this. I can do this picture, and I know what I would do with this. But I'm going to show you the way that I would do it. And then, you show me or tell me the way you would do it there in the chat room. I'd like to hear from your call in if you have ideas. That's better yet. If you just call in on Skype, that's an even better idea. So the first thing we got to do is hide these cars. We have to get rid of that. We have to cover it up somehow. Now, the easiest way I've ever found to cover things up, and remember my philosophy is, if you're not there to see the picture that I'm taking, then I can make it look however I want and clean it up and present it to you, the viewer, and you're going to say, wow, that's an interesting shot. That's what we want to go for. So let's go here first. We're going to do some selecting work. So I'll use my selection tool, hit the plus sign, and what I'm going to select is right here. I'm going to select this grassy area. Maybe I'll bring my selection brush up a little bit, do it a little bit easier. Okay, then we're going to minus because there's some that we don't want. Get rid of some of this, and that brown area right there, we don't really want that. That's not going to help us at all. And remember what I always tell you guys when you're working with any picture is, and you're doing selections, the better the selection, the more realistic the picture is going to become. If you do a poor selection, it's going to look pretty messy. So you got to be careful with that. So we have that selected. Now what we want to do is we're going to go up here under layer. And under layer, we're going to do new layer via copy. And all we're copying is that piece that we selected. So there you have it. If I turn this off, you'll see all that is the piece that we selected. Now we're going to use that to do my cover-up routine. And I routinely teach us in classes about Photoshop. And what we need to do now is with that selected, click on the Move tool. And we're going to simply move it up. And we're going to place it over top of the cars. So like that. Then we can pull it out a little bit. And don't worry here, this is the tricky part. Don't worry if you go over top of the Canon or whatever you're going over top of. Once you get that done, just simply click the check box. Check box. Okay. Now, with that done, you're going to say, boy, Jack, that's wonderful trick. Looks like crap. And I agree with you. That does look really, really bad. But it is a lot easier at this point. So far, we're not done. But it is a lot easier than to actually try to use the clone stamp tool and clone that out. You can, but it's going to take you a while. When I'm working with big areas, I like to just cover it up. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Get right here. And we're going to go here. Just like this. And again, we're going to subtract that dirt area down there because we don't want to use that. So we'll go right about here and come across. Right in there somewhere. Looks pretty good. And again, you're going to go to Layer, New Layer via Copy. Because we need that piece, we're going to move that. And we're going to move that up. And again, we'll just move it right to there. Pull this over a little bit. And pull it over this way just a little bit more. Just like so. Now, very quickly and easily, we got rid of those cars, right? That's gone. So, and now it just looks like we extended the yard out some. We took the grassy area out a little bit. So nobody would ever recognize that it wasn't there to begin with. What they may recognize and what they're going to recognize is they're going to recognize this right here. You guys can see that. Let's just do this. And I want to blow this up for you guys because I want you to see this right here. Okay. This is what they're going to recognize, guys, right here, right? Guys and girls, they're going to recognize this right here. This being over the Canon. Now, there's a couple ways that we can take care of that and clean that up. One way is more or less the wrong way. And one way, if we're dealing with at least Photoshop Elements 9, is going to be the right way. And the reason I say that is Photoshop Elements 9 introduced the mask tool. And I know a lot of you out there, and I've taught it, where you can use a one of the actual adjustment layers, and you can kind of create a mask. But we're going to use the actual real masks in Photoshop Elements 9 to do this tutorial, and so I can show you how this works. Now, here's the wrong way to do it. We're going to grab an eraser tool. We're going to grab on that top layer here because we're working on this side, and we're going to start erasing. Now look, it looks really good, and you're like, wow, Jack, it's working. Yeah, it's working. It's working real good, right? It's actually cleaning it up pretty good, right? Okay, now here's where our problem lies. Oops, we made a mistake. So we made a mistake, huh? And there's no way to unerase, right? We can't go back and paint that back in. I can go up here to edit, undo eraser tool, and move it back and start again. My eraser tool selected. Click back on that layer, and I can start again. Try it again and be like, well, we're going to try to do better this time. I still don't really know where that... Oh, crap. I did it again. So, alright. Edit, undo eraser tool. Now, with that said, and you see now how much trouble there is when you use the eraser tool. I just want to make sure I get rid of all the eraser tool there. Okay. Now, we want to make sure that we're going to be able to undo what we do. Because when you're cleaning things up, you want to take the time and clean it and make it proper. So what we're going to do here instead, we clicked on the layer, on the first layer we're working with for this area right here that we're talking about. And I wanted to show you the close up here. So we are clicking on layer 1. That's the first one we did. And now we will add a layer mask. Now with that layer mask selected, we can paint with either white or black, and I'm going to show you this. We're going to show you this part first, and we'll go back and show you the other part. White or black. Grab a paintbrush and just start painting away with black. Just remember, here's the basics of it. You're painting onto a white surface. Basically, it's a white covering up your picture. And if you're painting with black, you're revealing what's underneath the white. If you're painting with white, you're covering up and you're filling it back in. So this way we can come up here and we can clean this up a little bit. And let's see here. Clean this up a little bit. And then let's say we make a mistake. Alright. All we have to do is switch over our default foreground and backgrounds. You can also use X on your keyboard to switch that over. And what we're going to do this time is paint with white. And white now will cover up the mistakes that we actually have going on. Just like so. We can switch it again with X. You might want to clean up some of this out here. Top of that picture. Clean up around the spoke a little bit. Just like so. Okay, let me take you back to full screen here. Okay. So here is layer 1 with our mask on it, and that's how it looks now. Now we got to do the same thing with the other side. So click on that layer that you created. And again, now go down here at the bottom. You'll see it right here. It's the second one over. It's called Add Layer Mask. Add your layer mask. This is what I was talking about your foreground and background colors is over here. You can click on this little arrow and move them. Or you can use your X key. You can use your X key and move those back and forth, just like so. It's very, very simple to do that. Okay. And we're going to start over here painting with some black, just to clean up like around this piece of chain here that I seen was there. Clean that up. There was something out here. I don't know what that little white thing was right there. We can take that off of there. Blend this in back in here, make it look a little bit more realistic. And again, just hit your X key if you make a mistake and just go back over that. I've seen that little piece there. And that should about do us. Looks pretty good. Now we don't have those cars there. Now we just took this Civil War relic and put it back into the era of the Civil War. We cleaned it up. It looks really, really nice, and everything's good to go. Now we just save it as a JPEG, and your picture's ready to be developed. So there you have it. Okay, guys, so I hope you enjoyed that part of it, masking away troubles or masking away issues. And I hope you understand that, how that works. If you would like to call in, now's a great time to Skype. You can Skype me at Jack's Tech Corner or 724-701-0911. You can definitely call in that way too. Just checking things out here, making sure everything's still running okay. Looks like everything's moving along good. Just checking the cast, making sure everything's still running. I don't see anybody in the chat room this morning. That's interesting. Slightly unusual, though, to see you guys not chatting it up. Okay. So everybody's ready to move on and keep learning some more, get some more ideas of how to create your works of art there with your Photoshop editing. So we are going to do that now. We're going to move on here and get up to another video. And let's go ahead and get started with that one. Just going to move my chat window over here so I can take a look from time to time and see what's going on with you guys. So this next picture that we're going to work with is interesting because I've taught you before how to change colors using hue and saturation. That's one of my favorite ways of changing colors. But there's another way that you can play around with colors and how to use different color sets to change the look of a picture and to change the colors of a picture and make it very easy to use. And it is called using a layer. So we're going to change colors with a layer instead of doing it with the hue and saturation. Okay, now let's go ahead and switch us back over to the computer screen. And I also took this shot when I was away. Now it's a nice shot here, just some people walking, but I was mainly focusing and catching the umbrellas, just the way that they were laid out on this sidewalk. So many sidewalk restaurants. I was pretty impressed when we were away how many people have their tables and chairs right out on the sidewalks. Makes it interesting to walk around the city because you have to dodge tables or walk on the street at times. But I guess it's something that the city worked out with these restaurant owners. And there's the history of this. Now let's change the color of the umbrellas. That's what we want to work on. So all we have to do here is we're going to start here by making a selection around what you want to change the color with. So use your selection tool again. And we're going to work with these umbrellas. And just like this. This is a tricky part inside this green here. So we're going to let it go. We're going to take it all the way down there. But we are going to affect the greenery just a little bit. Okay, we're going to take this and clean this selection up here. Just like so. Now, to change the color of these umbrellas, let's go up to down here, actually, create a new layer. We have those selected. Let's create a new layer. And now what you're going to do with that new layer is go ahead and pick your color out of your foreground colors. And we will pick out, let's try green, see if it works. And then all we need to do now that you have that new layer selected and you have a selection made of what you want to change, grab your paint bucket tool and just drop it. There you go. Every umbrella is now colored and it looks absolutely fantastic, right? No. It looks absolutely like crap. You guys can say it. Say, Jack, in the chat room, say, Jack, that is absolutely crap. Looks terrible. And it did to me too. I was thinking, wow, that really looks bad. How can we fix it? Sometimes you got to change your layer styles. Don't forget that, guys, because too many times we start dealing with Photoshop and we deal with all this great editing and everything, and we take it for face value. Always dig inside of Photoshop Elements and dig around for something different or something more important that you want to do. So if I change the layer style to multiply, what it does now, it actually embeds that color more into the fabric, and it brings the fabric back out. It multiplies the fabric and everything, and now it looks more realistic. To make it even look better at this point, if it's too overbearing, just drop your opacity. And we are going to show you that because I think that's a very important part here. We're going to look at some of these settings here together. So right here is opacity. You can just put your mouse under it, changes into a little finger. I don't know if you guys know that or not. You can just pull it back and forth. You can change the opacity back on those different umbrellas, right? Just like this. And change that back and forth, make it real dark, or change it back. You can also click the little button there and you would have the actual slider bar itself, but you don't need to do that. Elements is nice enough, and the Photoshop guys are nice enough to put the little finger there so you can just move your mouse back and forth under that. And change the umbrella color. Go back in that. We'll show you how that's changing, just so you guys see if you're not working along with me. We'll change the opacity back and forth here again. And you can see the color getting darker. And we can take some of that color back off, make them red again. Whatever color you want. Now, with those selected, here's something that I like to do if you're working for a client and you're looking at different color layouts, especially if you're working with backgrounds. This is big in backgrounds. Is create another layer. So you created another layer here, and then go ahead and do it again. Just gonna grab a different color. Your paint bucket selected. Paint on that. Change that layer to multiply. Multiply. Turn that bottom layer off. Now you can change this opacity also. Now, and you say, Jack, why would you want to do that? Here's the reasoning for this when you're working with a client. Why you want to play around and do this stuff. But like I said, especially with backgrounds. It's big with me, with my clients, with backgrounds. And the reason we do it is, I can say, well, this is a background or whatever, and this is this picture shown here with a purple umbrella. We don't know if we like that. I can turn off the visibility of one and turn on the visibility of the next and say, well, this is kind of an orangish overcast type of a look. I can turn that off and I can make it original again, right back to red. So again, we're just turning on and off the visibility of those actual colors is what you're doing. And it's right here in front of these. It's a little eyeball. So you can turn that on, you can turn this on, and you would show your client each color. So you may actually set this up before your client would come over to see pictures, and you can have a bunch of different layers set up with a bunch of different colors. That's how that would work. It's a very nice way of doing things. And it's a very good way to work with your clients. You know, if nothing else, to show them your talents. Show them how talented you are. And I think that's very important, to show them how talented that you actually are. And I'm sure they will actually appreciate that very, very much about how everything looks. So there you go. Okay, guys, so that is how to change colors using layers. Now, hopefully, everybody's coming along here with us pretty well. We've picked up a lot of viewers. I'm just also reading the chat room here at the same time. We have a pretty big message in here, so I do want to pull that around here and take a look here real quick. I used this to choose the color of a metal roof of a house here in Georgia. Using opacity to control the intensity, it worked like a charm. Dan. Dan, we're glad it worked for you there, my friend. Glad it's working there. And it's a nice way to change colors. It's a nice way to make that picture look different. Give it a different style, different picture, or a different perspective, I guess. And you have to play around. I know I'm going to get a ton of emails once this video hits YouTube. And actually, I'm sorry to tell you guys, the last week's cast that we did, number 13, the remote cast, is still not up on YouTube. I do hope to post that today. I have it ready to go, but where I was staying at, I just couldn't upload that. Hey, good morning. This is Jack with Jack's Tech Corner. Who am I talking to?
Hi, Jack. This is Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, I for some reason I couldn't get through at the end of the last tutorial. I have a question. It's hard to tell, maybe on the broadcast. When you change the graph on the Canon, in real life, does it look like the perspective fades away? I don't know do you know what I mean?
Yeah, hold on one second here. Just looking here. I'm going to pull it back up here as we're talking. Let me just grab it back here real quick. I know what you're talking about. So you're saying right here on the bottom here with the Canon, does it change? What are you saying, to change the perspective of it?
Yeah, I mean, does it? If you look on the right side of the picture, it looks, the perspective of the image. It goes from foreground to background, really nice. But on the right side, once you apply that layer, does it look like it's all foreground and then background?
No, I see what you're saying too. No, not actually. And you could probably blend that in a little bit. Maybe you'd want to blur it a little bit. We didn't go that far as blurring that, but you might want to blur it. But my thinking all the time, Brian, is if I take this picture, now if you sit and you study it in front of the computer, you blow it up. Such as if we take this magnifying glass here and we blow up the right side, like you're talking about, you can see what you're saying, how it's going from one to the other.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
if this is,
I get that, like when it's blown up, and then when you bring it back to like print size or fit the screen, it actually, you never see a lot of the editing. I'm just wondering, once it's printed out, so it would be better to blend that grass line just below that tree, so it doesn't look like it's all foreground and then background.
You mean right up in here? I'm just trying to blur that down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about too. I do. I got that. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's a great point, Brian. I'm glad you called in and brought that up. I probably would blur that out, just to give it that break you said between the foreground and the background. So, and then the big thing is remember, when you print this, like you said, you print it off and you hang it across the room a little bit away from somebody. I don't think they would ever notice the editing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right there, so.
All right, great.
Okay, Brian, you plan on going out and shooting some fireworks this weekend?
Yes, I am, so I'm waiting
Okay.
for that part of the show to come up.
Okay, we are going to get into that part next here and show you a little bit about the camera settings if I can. You guys might have seen it when I was first bringing up the caster. I was playing with some cameras, trying to figure out how I can show my camera settings, and we'll work with that next.
Great.
Okay, hey Brian, thanks for calling in, and I really appreciate your advice on that. Thanks.
Sure, thanks, Jack.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Okay, guys, if anybody else would like to call in, that was you heard Brian there stating that we do, you probably would blur out some of that just to kind of give it that breaking point between the foreground and background. So that was a great call, and I always like when you guys call in to give me the pointers too. That's a great bit of help. You're sitting in front of the editor and you're editing, you're like, this looks really good, but it's always good to get that extra set of eyes out there. And you guys are all well trained, and you know editing, that's for sure. So if you'd like to call in, there's the number. If you want to give me a ring back here, we are going to get ready here to start with the fireworks talk, I guess, or tutorial there. And I am going to try to show you the camera settings. So this is going to be interesting. I don't know how focused. I have a webcam set up. I don't know how focused it'll be, but we will play around with that and see what we get there. So because I know everybody's ready to take some pictures of fireworks. It's a big thing this year. It's interesting, and if you guys think about this, and if you have a camcorder, take a camcorder out and shoot some video of the fireworks, because I had a heck of a time finding video this morning of fireworks. Believe it or not. Very interesting. I couldn't find it. Let's see here now. So we are going to show you, first of all, let me get this set up here. First thing we're going to do is show you a actual video footage of some fireworks, just to put you in the mood. And this is not to bore you guys. Okay, I think Kim sent me a Skype message here, so I'm trying to read that also. Let's pull this over here. Okay. I just want to go through this message real quick here for Kim. We always want to take calls and messages during the show. It's very important. Hi, Jack. I am very new to Elements. I have version 8. I have a high resolution picture of a window with 4 panes, which I am trying to extract and then overlay on top of another low resolution picture of my wife. My intention is to make it look like my wife is standing on the other side looking in. But my problem is that when I do select all on the high resolution picture and then copy it onto the picture of my wife, only the top left corner of the window is being pasted, not the entire picture. Would you happen to know what I am possibly doing wrong? Here's what I am thinking, and a lot of people in the cast here probably already know what I'm thinking. What you have to do, and I think I did a YouTube video on it just a couple back here, is actually you're going to have to get in there and create what's called a sandwich overlay. That's what you want to actually work on doing. You don't want to delete the panes out as much as the panes themselves. You want to make those transparent. So when you lay it on top of, you lay the transparent frame on top of your wife's picture, what's going to happen is she's going to be seen through the transparency layers. So you're going to want to look for that YouTube video on how to create a sandwich layer effect. And that's going to actually do exactly what you want to do, and it's going to work perfect for you. I don't think you'll have any trouble at all. And if not, you can also, I always say send the pictures in, and I can try to look at what you're trying to do and see if it's possible. But I think that's exactly what you want to do, the sandwich overlay, and I think you'll be absolutely fine. So hopefully that helped you out there, Kim, and we got you going on there with that. Thank you for the question. It's always nice, like I say, to get questions on the show here. It makes it more interesting. But what I want to do first is I have to break into that 58-second commercial that I made just to turn your guys on to some Green Screen Wizard by my friend Ken, and to turn you on to one-on-one hosting services. Guys, I'm sorry, it helps to pay the bills. So let's go ahead and kick over to that. When we come back, we will talk about fireworks. Green Screen Wizard for all your green screening needs. From standalone software to plugins to the green screens themselves. Ken is the man you want to go to. Longtime photographer and programmer, Ken has pulled both of his talents together to create the easiest green screen processes. And one hosting services. Do you need a personal website, or do you have a business looking for a company with dependability and support, yet at a reasonable cost, not to break the bank?
I'll be out.
One-on-one does it all. Websites, domain names, email services, and even remote servers. To order any of these products, go to my website, jackstechcorner.com, and click on the graphics on the left side of the page. Now, back to learning. Okay, guys and girls, so now you're ready to learn about some fireworks, and that's what we want to talk about here, is how to take pictures of fireworks. And if you heard me just talking there recently, over top of my ad, I'm sorry that happened. You shouldn't have, but we are going to talk about fireworks. I made some notes here this morning when I was working with this whole thing to talk to you about fireworks and how we actually take pictures of fireworks. And I did come up with a list. And I am going to do what I say never to do when you're doing a PowerPoint presentation. Is I am going to actually read it through with you. And we're going to take a look at the camera settings. That's going to be really important. And don't run off, because I do have a picture for you this week for our photo contest. So we do have a picture for the photo contest. Bring this up and see what this looks like. Okay, so here we go with our little talk, and then I'm going to show you the camera settings. I don't know what everybody's camera is, and folks, I've been teaching this for a long time, and when I sit down in the class and I tell everybody, bring your camera in and I'll show you how to use it, wow, is that a bad thing to do? Because what happens is I get everything from a Polaroid to a one-step to a digital camera that costs $29.95 at the local department store, to a Canon D3. And then you have to try to learn all these cameras, where the menus are. So this talk is going to help you a lot if you understand your camera and how your camera works. Then you will understand exactly what I'm telling you to do, and you'll be able to put this into motion with your cameras. So the first thing on my list is always, 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 and my wife always, I can't say she, I don't know, tells me not. She's always like, what are you, Joe Photo? You got to carry a tripod, you got to carry a lens, you got to carry a bag. Can't you just take a camera and take pictures? No, honey, you can't, because if you're a photographer, you need equipment. Anybody can take a snapshot. And guys and girls, you're here with me. We're talking about photography, and we've been doing this now for 14 consecutive weeks. You're not taking snapshots anymore. You guys are done with snapshots. You want to be a photographer. You want to be some kind of artist. So carry some equipment. Crap, I didn't get this out of my bag. Anyway. First thing is to use a tripod and carry a tripod. If you have kids, my kids are the greatest tripod carriers I've ever met in my life. I have a camera. I can't take pictures of my darling children and carry a tripod. Although a lot of my pictures of my darling children are pictures of them carrying my tripod. So they make great tripod carriers, and they enjoy doing it, right? Because, Tom, I can't get a picture of you if you don't have my tripod. So the first thing you need when you do fireworks is a tripod. The next thing, if you have one, don't rush out and buy it today. I mean, if you want to pick it up later on, I don't know what kind of camera you shoot with. I do shoot with Nikons. A lot of you know that. And I bought a wireless trigger, or wireless shutter release. That's basically what it is. And it's a remote release. Now, what this allows you to do is what we're going to talk about. Set your camera up on these incredibly crazy settings that you're going to use, and it's going to allow you to take a picture and not have that camera move. So many people tell me, Jack, I took some beautiful pictures last night and they were all blurry. I don't understand. It's not blurry, people. It's called camera shake. It's a phenomenon that happens when there's not enough light hitting that sensor, and hand holding a camera to take nighttime shots, especially at some of these incredible shutter speeds we're going to talk about, is crazy. You might as well just not even, so if you don't have a tripod, don't even bother with the fireworks. I mean, you know, you can get some pretty red sparkly things up in the air, but not the fireworks. The remote release just helps with that. You don't have to touch the camera at all, so that helps with that. My wife sounds like your husband. Jessica, actually, She's a darling wife. She does a very nice job with me with these cameras. I just happened to turn to see the chat room. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. The next thing is framing your shot. If you got this great tripod set up and you got this great shot figured out, think in your mind, where is the fireworks going to be going off? You don't want to come home and put your pictures on your computer and say, wow, that's really great shots of leaves and trees and falling debris. I mean, that's all you got pictures of. Make sure you know. So let the fireworks start and get an idea. Set your camera up on that tripod and then get a good framing area of where. I mean, fireworks you just seen that video. They don't go off in the east to the west to the west to the east to the south. They go off in the same location. That's how fireworks are set up. Now, focal length. You can, but I recommend do not take a 70 by 300 lens or 70 by 200 lens out there and zoom that baby out and get right up on that firework. Because all you're going to have is a big blurb of light. It's going to look like crap. Here's what you want to do. Actually, I prefer, just like on my sheet here, it says, if you can read this on the screen there, I prefer to crop my shots once I get them into the computer. That way, open them lenses up, guys. Open that lens all the way up. Get a nice wide angle shot. If you have a fish eye lens, if you can afford one of those babies, I tell you what, you're going to have some interesting pictures with fireworks. Apertures. Now, if you've never used apertures, what you want to do is set your aperture at f8 to f16. That's an f-stop. And what the aperture does, as the number gets smaller and smaller and smaller, we're letting in more and more light. The smaller the number, the bigger the amount of light coming into that lens. So if you crank it, baby, up to f22, you're cranking the availability of light down real small. If you can see my hand there, real small. So you're not going to let a lot of light into that lens. So f8 to f16, you're going to want to play with that, because here is another thought when you guys are shooting fireworks. When you're shooting a firework, if you have the aperture too wide open, okay, and you have your shutter speed set at these astronomically slow shutter speeds that we're going to talk about, you're going to let so much light in, all you're going to have is a big blurb of color, because the lens is going to open. It's just going to let all that light flood into your camera. You're going to have this big massive ball of color. People say, what the heck is that? So we're going to move on here. So keep your apertures at f8 to f16. The next thing is shutter speed. And under shutter speed, let's talk about slow it down. A lot of people get this misconception. Jack, I take firework pictures. I want my shutter to be real fast, right? Because the firework is fast. Whoosh, boom, whoosh, boom, right? It's blowing up. It's real fast. Not necessarily. You want, again, you're shooting in very low, limited light. So what's going to happen is you're going to catch that firework going up, and you're going to say, click the shutter, and it's going to have just a blurb of light going up if you notice how the fireworks go through the sky. If that firework gets up there and it opens up, and you can just get it opening up. The trick here is to have the shutter open long enough so it takes the whole scene into account. And you're going to get that stream going up, you're going to get that blur of light, and you're going to get that falling down. You're going to get that all in that same picture. And a lot of people out there recommend using the bulb mode. And I don't know if you know what the bulb mode is. The bulb mode is actually on digital cameras, 35mm digital cameras. And we use that to take the shutter and click it open. So we can use a bulb, one that blowers, and blow off the sensor. That's why it's called bulb mode. And it will stay open until you hit the shutter once again. So it's very, very nice to be able to click that and not have to worry about any shutter speed setting, because it's going to stay open until you close the shutter again. So it's a nice way. The firework goes up. You click your release, your remote release, right? It goes up there, and it actually opens up. And then it's going to open up, and once it opens up there, and the light goes out, you click that button, and once again it's closed. The shutter closes. And that kind of came from the old age cameras. Remember the old age cameras when they would put the gunpowder on the thing and hold it up, and the guy would put the plate in there. He would basically open the shutter, and poof, they would blow the gunpowder, get the light, and then he would close the shutter. There was no mechanical shutters in there. Now, let's talk about ISO. ISO. A lot of people say ISO. What the heck is ISO, and why do we need to worry about it? Folks, if you shoot pictures outdoors and indoors and here's one. I took my daughter to a zoo and taught her how to shoot pictures at the zoo without using your flash. Because what's behind windows? We have aquariums, beautiful fish to take pictures of. We have monkeys. Our monkeys in our local zoo are behind glass. And if you use a flash, guess what you get? A beautiful picture of yourself with a beautiful flash. Not a good idea. ISO is something you got to remember in your head. So ISO settings, keep your ISO set at 100. And that's because we're going to have plenty of light. There's a lot of light at the fireworks show. You don't need to take that ISO and set it for at night. See, again, you're thinking, wow, Jack said I'm out here. It's dark. You're looking around, you're like, it's dark. I should set my ISO to 400 or 800. No, set it to 100 because the brilliance and the spectacular of the light that you're going to have when that firework goes off, you're going to almost have too much light. That's why we're trying to take our aperture down a little bit. So hopefully I'm not talking too much. We're just moving on here. Now, next, no flash. No flash. Why did I put funny? It's supposed to be funny people. This should not be here, actually. Anyway, there. Sorry. Okay. I love this quote. Funny people shoot fireworks with flash. If you sit and you're drinking a nice cold glass of Coke or a can of Pepsi, whatever you prefer, and you're sitting there and people's out on that lawn just shooting pictures and they got their flash going off, and just sit back and laugh. Have a good chuckle about it. And if you've ever done it, I don't mean to be cruel or mean. We've all got caught up in that whole thing. A flash on any camera, the top flash on the camera basically only falls off at so many feet, not so many hundreds of thousands of feet in the air. And a flash on a bright firework probably is not going to illuminate it a whole lot. You get my picture? And manual mode. Guys, do not be scared of manual mode. You know, I've made a lot of mistakes. And I don't know if... I know Jessica does a lot of work. I've talked to her a lot. And there's a lot of new people in the chat room. It's great to see you coming aboard. I don't know you or your photography habits. I do know Jessica's habits, and I do know Kevin's. I do know Kevin's habits and how he takes pictures. You're going to shoot in manual mode, and you're going to get disgusted. You're going to be like absolutely just mad at yourself that you didn't flip that camera in automatic mode. Now, when I teach these classes, they said, Jack, you never use automatic mode? Yeah, Jack does use automatic mode sometimes. If Jack's shooting a wedding, I don't use automatic mode. I use the noggin. Use the noggin and figure out all your shots and your settings, and you're going to get caught up, and you're going to be like absolutely mad at yourself at times because the picture's going to be absolutely crap. But that's learning. That's how we learn things. You weren't born with the camera in your hand, and neither was I. So what we're going to try now is, I know we're going to run a little bit over on this cast. Hopefully nobody cares. We're going to just run a little bit over here, but this is important. You guys are going to be shooting fireworks, a lot of you. If you don't have fireworks in your town, you're welcome to fly over here to PA, and we will pick you up at the airport and take you to see fireworks, and we'll get some nice pictures together. That would be fun, actually. So I'm going to try to show you my camera. And we're going to talk about a few settings here. Again, you got to know your own camera. That's very, very important. So I don't know how beneficial this will be, but we're going to just take a quick look. Let me just move out here. Move my microphone around here a little bit. And see if we can't talk about this and try to see what you guys are seeing here. So bring this over here so we can take a look. And there's a weird look right there for you. We're going to put this down here. These are the modes I was telling you about right here. Let me see if I can get this focused. There, it's not too bad. This is the dreaded automatic mode. Now here's what happens in automatic mode. The camera, if you're outside taking pictures of the fireworks, the camera is going to say, and I don't mean to make you seasick there, the camera is going to say, hey, it's dark out here. I better turn my flash on. Well, bad idea, right? Because now people are looking at you saying, that guy's kind of silly. So they don't want to do that. P, program mode. I use that a lot on my camera. Program mode is basically saying the same as automatic mode, but it's not doing anything with the flash. So it does a lot of it for you. The other one I use a lot, I can show you some pictures of my recent trip, is... This thing is not working out too good here. I'll just walk you through these real quick because every camera is basically the same. So we're going to just walk you through these settings here real quick. Hold on a minute. Readjust the microphone here just to get that back in check. There we go. And let me just flip back over to this camera. Okay, so the other modes we want to talk about is actually the S on your camera is shutter priority mode. That means you select the shutter speed, the camera selects the aperture for you, and does all the other guesswork with white balancing and all that good stuff. If you put your camera in A is aperture priority mode. I enjoy aperture priority mode because it allows me excuse me, to open or close that aperture either way. I could either make it wide open or a low number and let more light in. Or if it looks like it's overexposed, shot them outside, it looks a little overexposed, take the aperture and close it down a little bit. Or make it a bigger number, which lets less light in. And that is exactly how that works. Now, just try and keep up with the chat room at the same time we're talking here. And somebody was saying about the choppy sound there. Hopefully it catches back up to itself there again. And we don't lose any of that. We're not playing anything else here right now, so everything should be closed out. Just want to make sure my windows are all closed here real quick. Sometimes that happens if like when I played that video actually came across from YouTube. So sometimes that would happen, give a little bit of choppy sound. Sorry about that. And Dan talks about he uses RAW mode, always use, and the instance would you. And in this instance would you. You could, we talked about RAW mode a few weeks back. RAW mode is actually a way of, I'm just trying to read the chat room I'm talking here. RAW mode is actually good because you can come back to the computer and make a lot of those settings yourself. But in this instance, would I use RAW mode? Probably not. I've never used RAW mode for photographing fireworks. So now that last mode we were talking about, you have to turn your camera on. And here's something I was thinking to tell you guys when I was doing this, getting ready for this webcast was, if your camera has a fireworks setting on it, don't use it. Okay, don't use it. That's for the a novice, basically somebody that just bought the camera and wanted to go out and take pictures of fireworks and never shot a camera. Best guess scenario, I guess, pull on fireworks. I never use any of my presets like that. You know, I know there's scenery presets and all that different things. I don't use that, so. I do want to tell you about the M on your camera. The M is total manual mode. That means you select the shutter speed, you figure out the aperture mode, you set the ISO. Absolutely #1 setting you would want to use on your camera for shooting fireworks, because every setting that we talked about you can actually set up on your camera. If you go to the other ones, you're getting to set the aperture but not the shutter speed. If you go to shutter, you're setting the shutter but not the aperture. And if you're going to program, you're not really setting much at all. Maybe the ISO. So there you go. To set your camera up, and we talked about this, to set your camera up in the bulb mode, it's going to be in your menu somewhere. You're going to want to look through the menu of your camera. Again, this is for 35mm mechanical, if you can see this one. This is for 35mm with a mechanical shutter in there. And what it does, it takes that shutter and it opens it up and keeps it open all the time. So that's how that works. Okay, guys, there we go with shooting fireworks. Hopefully everybody will be ready for that. and you'll be good to go to shoot fireworks either this evening or sometime this weekend. And we love to see those. You can jump over. I don't know if you're on my Facebook group page. We have a group page called Jack's Tech Corner. Imagine that. Pretty original, huh? Thought of that myself. That was pretty good. Okay. This was a bad ending. Somehow I lost a few minutes of this recording, but you didn't miss anything. See you next Sunday on Photoshop Elements Weekly. Until then, keep the shutter clicking, keep the editors editing, and I'll see you back here soon. Bye for now.